When was the last time you saw two characters on TV or a movie who were each other's person, but not each other's love interest? I'll wait, because I've been looking for years and I can barely name a handful. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Why queer platonic relationships matter and why we desperately need to see more of them in media.
And on this journey, one more love unraveled. I finally learned to love me for me.
Now, I get asked about queer platonic relationships all the time. What they look like, how to find one, how to start one. And honestly, I can explain the definition, but when it comes to actually picturing them in my own life or seeing examples of them around me, that's still really hard. And I think part of the reason that it's hard is because we rarely see them represented in media. So let's talk about why that matters and why we need more models of queer platonic relationships on our screens, in our stories, and in our lives. Before we get into media representation, let's start with what queer platonic even means. A queer platonic relationship, or sometimes called a QPR, is a relationship that's not romantic, but it goes deeper than what people just think of as just friends. It's a committed, intimate, emotionally significant bond that doesn't fit neatly into the categories of friendship or romance. It can be a very strong friendship. It can even sometimes be romantic. It can even sometimes be sexual if the people involved in it want it that way. There's no single blueprint. It can look like two people living together, making life decisions together, prioritizing each other as a main partner. It's all about the commitment and about what they want with each other and for each other. Now, for a lot of us in the asexual and aromantic communities, QPRs are really important. They're a way of building a someone without the assumption of romance, without necessarily the assumption of sex. But because we don't see these relationships in TV shows, in movies, or in books, it's hard to imagine what they can actually look like or how they work. And that lack of representation makes it harder to talk about them. It makes it harder to seek them out or even to believe that they're possible for us. When I think back to examples that have always stood out to me, I always come back to Lucas Scott and Haley James Scott on One Tree Hill. And no, they were not siblings, not right away anyway. They eventually were brother and sister-in-law, but that's another story. But right from the very first episode of the show, Haley gives Lucas a copy of Julius Caesar and says that she saw it and thought of him, but not in a Joey Loves Dawson kind of way. And that one line really set the tone for their entire relationship. Their friendship was close, it was caring, but it was never romantic. Throughout the whole series, they were friends. For most of it, they were best friends. That's another thing we'll get to later. Another example that stood out to me was Chloe and Clark on Smallville. Yeah, Chloe had a short period of romantic feelings for Clark, but that storyline didn't really last long. It didn't dominate. See, most of the time their friendship was about support. It was about trust. It was about shared experiences, but not about romance. The strongest bit of it was the trust that Clark had in Chloe, to be able to trust her with his secret. For those that don't know Smallville, when I say Clark, I'm talking about Superman. The younger Superman, before he became Superman. And yeah, that's a big secret that he was carrying. All those powers being completely misunderstood and not being able to tell anyone. Yeah, he needed a best friend like Chloe, somebody that he could share that with. And that was really important for both of them, to build that trust together. And see, these kinds of relationships really stuck out to me growing up because I connected better with girls than with guys. With guys, the only part of the conversation I genuinely connected with was sports. I didn't know much about cars. I would never go hunting and had no interest in hearing about it, but because I live in Wisconsin, it comes up no matter whether you like it or not. You just kind of have to entertain it sometimes. And of course, when it came to sex, I didn't even realize how serious it was for people. I didn't recognize that I was ace until I was 28. So growing up, I thought people around me were just trying to sound cool or making jokes. Even now, I honestly don't know what parts of those conversations were real and what weren't. And honestly, I don't want to know. With my friends who were girls, though, it was different. I could talk about real things with them. I could talk about what I was going through, how I was feeling. I felt more like myself with them. We could be physical in a hugging or cuddling kind of way. There was a closeness that was really deep, but never romantic. I haven't been able to find that since my teenage years, and I really miss that. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the time in media, these kinds of friendships either fade away or they get rewritten as romance once the characters age up. I mean, even Joey and Dawson started out as best friends, which is one of the reasons why that one-liner from Haley in the first episode of One Tree Hill was actually pretty significant. But then fast forward to when the characters are in their 20s on One Tree Hill. After Chad Michael Murray leaves the show, and no longer do we have Lucas on screen. Haley no longer referred to Lucas as her best friend by that point. In fact, she started calling Brooke Davis her best friend instead, one of the other characters that was still on the show. It was almost like they rewrote the Lucas and Haley friendship, and just now that he's not on screen, we don't have to have them be best friends. Best friends can exist from long distances. That's not unheard of, because it really downplayed the relationship that I had been watching and feeling connected to for so long. And that kind of hurt, because I really looked up to that relationship. I mean, right from the start, Haley and Lucas were established as best friends. And it's kind of like, well, if you don't see this person every day, they don't get to be your person. And I feel like that sucks. And I mean, nothing against Brooke, but I connected with Lucas and Haley for a long time, and I was deeply invested in that relationship because it mirrored so much of what I had in my life growing up. Seeing it fade, especially at about the time that it did on screen, again, it kind of mirrored what I was going through, and that wasn't fun to see play out on screen at the same time that it was playing out in my own life. It's like once characters hit adulthood, writers assume every deep bond has to be romantic or sexual, or else it's going to be secondary. And that's not just a storytelling choice. It sends a clear message to viewers. It says this is how adult relationships are supposed to look. It leaves no roadmap for friendships or partnerships outside of romance. It's almost like it's saying, if you don't have those things, you're doing adulthood wrong. Probably some of you watching this, that absence probably felt like erasure. I know it did for me. And the truth is, making friends as an adult is harder. People are busy, people partner up, people move. And if you're someone who wants a queer platonic relationship, there's even less guidance. What does it look like? How do you ask for it? How do you maintain it? Without examples in media, it's like we're all trying to build something from scratch without any instructions, any manual. I mean, even when I teach how to write in my English classes, we use mentor texts. We study what other writers have done. That's what I teach my students. But we don't get to do that in this. And that's why representation matters. When we see characters forming lifelong bonds that are non-romantic but still central, it normalizes those relationships. People who might not want romance or who simply value friendship as deeply as others value romantic love, it gives us a model. It helps us say, oh, this is possible. It's valid. And it's something that I can have too. So here's my plea to showrunners and to writers and to creators. Give us more queer platonic partnerships, especially between adults. Show us friends who are each other's person without it being romantic. Show us life partners who aren't romantic or sexual partners. Show us the many ways that people can build meaningful lives together outside of the default love interest narrative. Now, I know that there is some representation out there, so let's celebrate the examples that do exist. Share them out, talk about them, support creators who write them, because the more we do normalize these relationships, the easier it becomes for people to ask for them, to form them, and to see them as real. I know for me, just having the handful of examples that I did have growing up, it helped me feel seen, especially at a time when I didn't have any other words to describe how I was feeling or how I connected with people. I didn't have that language, but I had examples. But we need more. We deserve more. And maybe if media starts reflecting these bonds back at us, we'll find it a little less scary and a little more possible to build them into our own lives and to find what we're looking for too. Thanks for watching. And if you have examples of queer platonic or deeply non-romantic relationships from shows, from movies, from books that inspired you, drop them in the comments. Let's build our own resource so that we can see these stories for ourselves. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, share it out with others, and subscribe right here for more content. You can also check out my merch designed personally by me, just like this shirt I'm wearing right now, on my website at fluentlyAspec.com. And you can order a copy of my debut book, Limitless: Poetry of an Aromantic and Asexual Journey. Links for that are in the description. Be good to each other and to yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.